Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Parallel League podcast. Today, Mookah and I are joined by Greg, also known as GL, who takes on the lore of Parallel. And Mookah said prior to starting this episode that if we let Greg talk, like this could be a 2-hour episode. So there is probably a lot to discuss, okay, when it comes to the lore. So I'm personally very excited. But before we get into the episode, a few announcements. A big congrats to Ego Rig for winning the third Open, taking down Comfortable in the finals. So big congrats there. The Prime Minor is June 14th. That's 10K prize pool. And then the Major starts the 21st, and the broadcast is going to be the weekend of the 28th, and that is a $75,000 prize pool. Every time I see that, I'm like, that's kind of insane. So, of course, these scheduled events can be found on parallelleague.game for more information on how to participate. But, Greg,
yes,
are you excited to get some hard-hitting questions about the Parallel lore?
a little nervous,
Little
but
nervous?
yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
You're excited? Okay. Excited,
Yeah.
a little nervous. Well, I wanted to get a little recap before we get into the main discussion about the shotgun patch from Mookah, because this is the first episode post-patch. So, Mookah, what are your thoughts? Is the team happy with the shotgun patch? Give us a real quick little breakdown.
Yeah, I feel like Shotgun Patch did its job. Like we said originally, we took a huge bulk of cards that we felt like weren't hitting their functional goal, and we brought them up to a level that players can now, experiment with them, use them. We did very little amount of balance. So like some of the main offenders of the meta are still kind of there. So that's fine. Like, I'm gonna note Scipius, for example. Like, we're well aware that some of these decks are still really, really good. But as a whole, very happy. The amount of like Paragon diversity, like we've never seen like a Gafar hit master. We've never seen Asio do as well as it's done. We haven't seen New Dawn play in I don't know how long. Like, I think as a whole, functionality wise, it was a success. And there's like, even like, I know Augencore is kind of like the quote unquote meme, but we had to turn off some cards, and a lot of players in that that play that parallel really want them turned on. So there's excitement there, and I think it's just lagging behind because some of those cards have been turned off and will be turned back on soon. It'll be with this month on .66. So we'll see. I think we'll see some excitement there too. But as a whole, yes, I think we were all very happy. It did its job, and it encouraged us and empowered us to do more things like this in the future.
Awesome. One day, Augencore is going to be OP, and we're all just going to be like, man, remember the times when it was lagging behind. But no, thank you very much for that breakdown, Mookah. I've certainly been having fun. I've been playing a Shoshana deck, and
I love it.
It's been going well. I'm pretty happy with it. So, okay, Greg, who are
Yes.
you? Tell us about yourself. What do you do?
So at Parallel Studios, I'm the lead narrative designer, and I originally came on as just a staff writer for the Priming comic, and since then I've taken this new position to kind of just go over all the lore from base, Planetfall, Aftermath, and make it make sense. Make sure we're doing it justice, and make sure that it's all enjoyable for any medium that we're presenting our IP in. But yeah, that's really it. I have a writing background, screenwriting, nothing major. I just always have been in the indie realm, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to come in and play around in this amazing sandbox that is the Parallel universe. And yeah, that started with issue 1 of the Priming, and it's been moving forward ever since.
Mom, yeah, can you speak to that progression a little bit of like, just getting brought in for the comic, and now you're leading the narrative? I mean, yeah, like what is, changed the most, and, things that have been fine-tuned here and there. I'm just curious about that progression.
Yeah, the progression is quite a bit, a lot of growth. I'm way more familiar with TCGs than I've ever been before. I'm still currently going through the school of TCG with Veen and Mookah. So yeah, now, so like I put narrative pieces that we want to highlight in the expansions now, and which covers like some presentation to like what's going to be visually represented on the card and how that translates like with the function. And that's where I work very closely with Veen and Mookah. And then on the other side of it, I work very closely with Oscar and the artists, translating all of that and making sure these key points are hit, that we all agree like, hey, this is a nice little narrative set piece that we'd like to do. So more so than Aftermath, like Deception's really going to usher in this era where you're going to see some stuff coming through in the art.
Yeah, if I could touch in, like, a lot of people have been introduced to Nicole and understand how central she is to like engineering and game design. Greg is that with lore, visuals, like the aesthetics. Like, we talked to him. I mean, as far as I know, like when Veen introduced me to Greg, like that link has only been strengthened since they both have come onto the team, and that has made the game a lot more, I'm gonna say, better to design for, and like have both parts work really well together, design and lore, and there's even art. Like obviously art is a huge one, and having all of those mesh really well together like is very hard to do. And we're very lucky to have Greg because he helps make that all come together. He gives us inspiration from the lore, like this is what's happening, we make cards for that, that's part of the cards that we make. Then we work, like, you know, we give a little input here and there, but like majority is like him going to Oscar and art and making that story come to life through the function, through the lore, and that meshes together really, really well, and it like really elevates the quality of like what we can make and stuff. So he wasn't selling himself hard enough, so I wanted to he is like we need people like Nicole, we need people like Greg, like they are central figures to make sure the whole machine works
So we're
and does its
screwed
job.
without Greg.
Thank you, Mookah. Yeah, I don't know what would happen if something happened to me. No, all joking aside, like these guys, game and art, both sides care so much about the lore. They want to make sure that, like I said before, we're doing it justice. We're getting it right, and like you'll see in these new battle pass cards that are even coming out now, like lore's trickling in through those, and it's been really cool to see. Like I'll design characters and I'll do like full character bios, and then I'll ship them over to like Veen and Mookah, and then they're like, okay, hey, these are the cards we designed based off these personalities, and I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. I'm like, this card is doing this because of this, and they're like, yeah, and I'm thrilled to see stuff like that. I'm thrilled to see everything come through in that light. Whereas like before, like it could have just been like just in the art, it wasn't necessarily with the function or anything, but having it all like meshed together, like really, really elevates the product.
Cohesive is the word that's coming to mind
Yeah.
when describing this, right? Gosh, there are so many questions that I have just from that little thing there. But let's take it back real quick.
Mhm.
Clearly you care a lot about lore and storytelling. So I'm just like a little bit curious about Greg yourself. Okay, like what are your favorite stories? Like kind of what's inspiring you, and you know, who is your favorite
Yeah.
faction, you know?
Okay. I like a little bit from each. So like before I came on the team, I would have said like 4 years ago, Earthen, but that has completely changed. I love the Core now.
Okay.
And I think that had a lot to do with designing the characters like for the comic and stuff like that, and that all kind of coming to life and finding their voices. And then like the inner strife between like John and Iraq, and I feel like that's a pretty dynamic relationship, and there's a lot to go with off of that. But outside of like Parallel, what influences me? I mean, you got another like 2 hours because I could just like
I
go
got
on
some time.
forever. But off the top of my head, like Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian, a big fan of his, and that piece of work. Bradbury, like going through the classic. Newer one is Cargill. He does like Sea of Rust, Day Zero. Also, like I'm a big horror guy as well, so like the Black Phone, like anything that Cargill like kind of puts his hands on, I'm always like, all right, I gotta go check that out. Screenplay wise, Gilroy Brothers, So like Crawler, shout out to Andor, new season of Andor, Rogue One. Yes, I enjoy Rogue One.
Ooh, is that controversial?
That
I feel
is
like Rogue One's a clear winner, is it not?
Rogue
I mean,
One
like
is
it's
to me it is.
it's a very good movie.
I know some
It's-
people have very adverse reactions when I say that sometimes.
Oh.
That's crazy.
But we're not here to talk about that IP,
Okay.
right? But yeah, I get like, and then comic wise, I mean like Mender, Grant Morrison, Brian K. Vaughan. So like, Why the Last Man, Black Science. Oh God, there's another one that God Country. There's a East of West. Those are all the things that I tend to enjoy, or I try to go away with. I mean, one of the biggest influences in my life, I guess you could say, has always been Spider-Man. Like I'm a big Spider-Man guy. But outside of that, like Daniel Warren Johnson and Murder Falcon, it's like one of my favorite comics that I've like ever read. So yeah, there's quite a bit, and I can go on for forever. But to kind of put a pin in it here, I would say like those are probably the best ones. And then I mean, shout out to like Saga is another huge sci-fi fantasy book by Brian K. Vaughan that I'm super into.
Oh, I admittedly don't know a lot of what
I'll send you a list. I'll
So
send you a list, a
I'm
reading list.
inspired, but clearly with the amount of passion and just ability to just name drop all of that, like you are clearly very well qualified for the job of heading on the lore. 'Cause I can tell the passion in the storytelling there. Okay, and then another thing I wanted to touch on is that you did mention Oscar, who was the art
Oh, I love
director,
Oscar.
and when he came on the show, okay,
Mm.
he expressed his desire once upon a time, and actually maybe still wants to just eradicate the Earthen faction. And I just want to get your thoughts on this, and yeah, let us
So,
know.
so my whole perspective of that, I was very new and just a staff writer working on the comic, and I can 100% say like he did say that, like, and he did say that to me, and it totally threw me for a loop. I was like, what do you mean? Like, how 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 do you expect somebody like me to do something like that? And it really came from a place where it was he didn't believe that they could stand in a fight with all these
Mm,
other factions that we look at. Like you look at the Morcolians and you're like, okay, like that. And then we look at the Earthen and the way that some of them were represented. It was like, can these guys really hang in a fight?
right.
And so from that day on, I was like, just let me see what we could do. And it's gonna take some time. And so like comic has slowly been trickling in. Like I'd say like issue 5, you saw Gafar in a new suit. All right, where did that new suit come from? Why do you have that
Mhm.
suit? And like we've also been, those things have been trickled in just like skins to that you could get through the battle pass and stuff. And we're starting to use that. We're trying to make the Earthen more of a contender in this fight for Earth. And I think we've been moving away from that sense of like they won't be able to hang in a fight from like the base set vibe to like where we are now, especially moving forward into Deception, because there's some key things that are in place for that I can't necessarily divulge yet, but you guys will know very soon.
I am kind of curious about. I think we spoke on this, Greg, potentially a little bit at the championship, and I'm
Mhm.
kind of curious if you can encapsulate it again. But has the with Earthen specifically, is there a shift away from the miasma narrative? Like, is that still like? Is there a magical element to them, or are we trying to step away from that? Because basically, just give us the breakdown there.
Yeah. So okay. So miasma played a role in their origin
Okay.
of the Earthen. We're currently, so part of my job now, like now that comic has calmed down and everything's calmed down, I'm going back into the root lore of everything and just making sure that it all makes sense and make sure that we're elevating the right parts that need to be elevated. And one of those things is the miasma specifically. So it is going to be a prominent thing highlighted here
Okay.
in Parallel's future. We really want to lean. I've always kind of liked how Earthen balances out the Shroud mysticism.
Yes, I
Um,
totally agree. Yeah.
I've really like that. So we try to still do that, but we want to really get away from like the earth bending stuff and like
Yeah.
we want to ground it in science a little bit more. And so like when I mean the documentary Fantastic Fungi or whatever it's called is very enlightening. Yeah. So getting into that mycelial network has been really great for us because there is actual science that backs this stuff up, and it makes it a little bit more believable. So like everything with the earth-in terminals, the mycelial network, and tapping into that, and the comic touches on how prime plays a role in like boosting that connection. We're going to continue to see that stuff. So basically, yeah, we're trying to root it a little bit more in science, but there still is that special little bit that falls more on the mystical side.
The fantasy, yeah.
Yeah,
That's fair. Sorry, I just had a no cordyceps, Last of Us, style of for the earth, and I just was thinking you could bring in that. Okay, awesome. And I love that that little note of like kind of balancing the shroud. Like it's clearly, the story is mostly science fiction, but there clearly, is some level of mysticism as well, which I personally love.
Yeah.
We're gonna stick on the Earthen Train for a little while
Okay.
here. The new Battle Pass card, Tanakh. Tanakh is one of the first characters. Actually, is he the opening character in
First
the
panel.
first comic? Yeah.
Yeah, first panel.
So it's high time that Tanakh gets a card. Okay. And
Yes.
Mookah, do you want to go over the card and kind of talk about it with us?
Yeah. I mean, functionality. I'll let Greg get into the lore of it because I was not around for Tanakh's inception in terms of like the card. But it's a 1-cost 1/1, and it generates a random card into your hand. It can be anything. The sky's the limit. And we tailored that ability with the withdraw ability because it is the deception expansion, and well, it's a battle pass card leading into the deception expansion, I should say. So we wanted to tie in a mechanic there, and withdraw is a very cool mechanic in deception that kind of like symbolizes that like you never really know what can happen, what traps are there, what isn't lying in secrecy that might like get the upper hand. So we tied that into Tanakh, and that the card that he generates while it's in your bank, you can actually play it from your bank equal to the cost of the card. Withdraw as a whole, just for people that don't know, because I've been getting a lot of questions, it's not always tied to the cost of the card. Some will have different costs, less, more than the cost, different situations that make it be able to be withdrawn from the bank. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a very fun card. I've used it a little bit internally, and I've had fun stuff happen in game. So I think he gets that job done really well. But like, I would love, Greg, if you take over the kind of like how that, not how the card functions, but like more of his backstory and stuff.
Yeah. The way that he was designed to a card, like how it all kind of came about was just kind of like this perfect storm of scenarios. And I was asked like, so on just doing the expansions, finally somebody was like, hey, like we need some battle pass cards. And I was like, oh, ask me. And then they were like, no, we need to know like what they're going to be though. And I was like, wait, so you're saying I could like potentially like have some influence in it? Like, well, then we're going to connect them all with a story, and we're going to get some more lore out there for everybody to kind of chew on. And we came up with this the story of the Hunted. And so like we had this really badass character, Raven. And then we're like, all right, we need targets, we need this. And it came down to the Earthen one, and we're just like, oh, do I design a new character? What do we do? And I was like, knowing where issue 6 leaves off, I was like, I think, wouldn't it be cool if we throw Tanakh in this type of scenario? And Tanakh to me has always been like near and dear. He's like one of the first characters that I designed originally, like within the parallel world, based off of and Stone Eyes Shamak, or Shamak Stone Eyes, whichever order that card is.
I think
in.
It's Shamak Stone Eyes, whatever.
Shamak Stone Eyes, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
But I say it and it doesn't sound right. I don't know. So, but yeah, and so like where he's gone now, like I always envisioned him to be like, if you ask me like where he falls within the comic, he is the reader's voice and thoughts. Like he's the one always like kind of prompting questions, like kind of like letting the narrative flow through him. Any question he has, usually the reader has it themselves, and you're like taking this journey with him. And he's thrown into this like kind of crazy scenario, but we've kind of breadcrumbed in that he is a whiz when it comes to like any kind of foreign technology or earthen technology, and he like really kind of takes to it. And he's kind of a like the battle pass, like an ingenious scholar. Was originally studying to be part of the council within Chamac, and now he's been thrust into this scenario. So yeah, this is how a lot of these conversations tend to go with Mookah and Veen. I'll just go on and on and on and on. But yeah, being able to see him finally get to this point and have a card that truly reflects his personality, his motivations, is really, really, really cool to see.
Love it. This the little flavor text here is he deciphers the past to reshape the future.
Yes.
Love that. And no, I totally agree with you in that he is that voice in the first comic, kind of guiding everything. And so, yes, I'm having the visions of like the movie slash TV show of like this, an opening with him, as essentially. And no, he's a super cool character. Love the card. And Mookah, it's any random card from any faction.
any
Like,
parallel, anything.
awesome.
Yeah.
Super, super cool.
To touch on Greg's point a little bit about how these conversations go, by the way, because I think it's like very fun to shed a light on that. It is like very much like a riff session. Like Greg is like kind of like pouring his heart out, telling us like, hey, these are these guys. This is what they do, and like we're sitting there like like we're quiet for a little bit, just listening it all in, and then we it's kind of like character. At least I was involved with the set after Deception. I mean, Veen keeps the code name is Haven. Veen keeps saying it, so I don't mind saying it.
It's Haven.
Yeah, and like the cards that I helped with there, that was a very fun conversation. Like you're kind of like every expansion is going to be different, but you're given like a scenario of like these characters, this is the environment and this is what's going on, and then you're like, okay, well, what is their personality like, and how do you put that into life with a card? And I wasn't part of the Tanakh conversation, but hearing it now, I totally get why he does what he does. And if Veen had said that, I would have been like, yeah, boom, let's do it. That's it. And those conversations are like that. We have it's where you can get really creative, and I think that will show in future sets as well, as like when we have lore for cards. It like those cards are like the more dynamic ones, I guess you could say, because they are like coming from a root of like we're trying to tap into like a story beat or a personality. And whether they land or not meta wise, like I think my seal uplink was like a great example that Veen showed. Like it's a race like against trying to get the uplink online before Lemieux takes her out. And that's when it gets like very, very fun. So I've only been part of one battle pass card circuit. I hope I get the next one soon, but they are a lot of fun, and it is like it feels like a writing room. You're like sitting down, you're listening to the thoughts, and then you just start throwing ideas like, what if they do this? And you're like, yeah, that kind of hits in. And someone's like, no, but what about this? And sometimes you mesh it, sometimes you recognize one is like the needle in the haystack. You're like, no, you got it, you said it, that was it, let's make it a thing. And shout out to the 3Bs also. They are involved in those conversations as well. And yeah, it's really good. I think even I think Koji was even in the last one for the battle pass cards. So we got a culmination of the past and the present all together for the next set of them. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was actually
very much.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, it's very much a collaboration. That's all.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, that was kind of like a good segue into a little bit more details about the creative process. But Mookah, you kind of already answered. But my question was going to be like, who's in that, and like who kind of gets final say? Is it like a vote? Like for, do we think this is a good path for the lore? I'm just kind of curious a little bit more, but you kind of answered it. So
yeah. I can add a little more, like at least as like designers I've learned from Veen, like we come up with a lot of solutions, and Greg is very nice to us. He loves a lot of what we say, but like he is the source of truth. So like for lore, so if it doesn't, we like even when we make the mechanic decisions, which you'll see more of in the future, like we go to Greg and we're like, does this make sense? Like, do we like, can we do this? And if it doesn't fit, we don't do it. Like we wanted to make sure that everything is cohesive is such a good word. When you said that, that's been ringing in my head. Like, but yeah, like for us, at least on the design side, Greg is our guiding light on that, and we make sure we stay close to what the story is saying.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like it's sort of like a simultaneous, because my next question was like, well, what comes first, the lore or the mechanics? Or are you guys, the design team, like, hey, this is generally our vision, and then Greg kind of comes in and like fits, the pieces into what you want the design of the cards to be?
I can speak to that a little bit. There are times where I'll be like, hey, like I really want to hit this narratively. Like, is there any way we can visually represent this with functions? And Vina and Mookah will be like, oh yeah, there's this we could do, and it totally fits that. There has also been times like pre-Mookah where we should coin that pre-Mookah,
Yeah.
where
That might be used in a bad context.
they're like they're like, oh hey Greg, we need to get this into the game, and it needs to like make sense. Can you make it
Mm.
happen? And I'm just like, whoa, you're putting this in the game? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, give me like 2 days and we'll make it happen. And like speaking to like what Mookah was just kind of talking about, like it's what comes first. Like I have my things, they have their things, and it's funny because I'll say like the opposite of him. Like I want to do whatever is best for the game as well, and I will make whatever lore has to be work for it, because we have so much to go off of. Sanctuary is a really good example too. Extraction shooters don't have necessarily a lot of like story to them, really. But Astro like presented something to me and was like, "Hey, we have an opportunity to add in some lore. Like, is there anything that stands out to you?" And I was like, "Boom, the Desmond Walker 3 coins. Like, we need to expand that." So like, there's things here and there, like, and I'll make sure I push the right things. But like, to getting to your other question, like, who's the ultimate decision maker? I have my I don't want to say marching orders. It's like my objectives to hit for specific beats that leadership has envisioned for the future of Parallel. And I always have those in the back of my mind, and I have them laid out. All this stuff we're seeing now with the way that we're expanding is future proofing the product, because we don't want to get to the end too quickly. We want to be able to expand and highlight other things that are taking place within the universe. Like Mook and I were just talking yesterday, like Aftermath could have been like three or four like expansions just like stretched out, but there's other things that we want to highlight. So it does come down to me, but I'm always I literally pinged Koji yesterday. Koji, answer your DM about something that I would like to push forward for the Cathari faction. So I'm always bugging people.
That's a really interesting prospect, like not getting to the end too quickly, because
Yeah.
there's you obviously the plan to Parallel to be a game for years to come, and how do you sprinkle in just the right amount of story to not get to the end too fast? And that makes me think, do you know the end? Like, is there an ending to Parallel? Do you understand? Do you like already have that planned out? Are you already on book 8 and you're like, I understand how to end this?
There, like I was saying, there are major story beats that were laid out to me very early on when I came out just as a staff writer that have stuck with me. Like literally, I have it on a post-it like here. That I know that there's expectations to get to those. So now we're building to get to those in a timely manner though too, because there's way more stories to tell, and especially growing. We're very early still. Growing this universe, like we got to cast a wider net to reach more people. So like if it's a story about Marcolian warden drones that reaches people, great. If it's a story about a hunter in the Dread sect, awesome, even better. Not everybody reads comics, not everybody likes comics. Like it's a very specific thing. So yeah, it's all about like casting a wider net and seeing where we can go. And yeah, so I can say like I know where, let's just say, founders expect the story to go in the future. Are we there yet? No. Lots more to tell.
I'm personally like kind of giddy right now because I'm like really excited because I'm like clearly it has to end with like Shroud, right? Like it's like they're the
She's
big
fishing.
kahuna.
She's fishing.
What's it
She's
called?
really
What's the not the chosen one? What's
Oh, the
the
great
big
one?
the great
the
one.
great
The
one?
great
Thank
great
you.
one.
Like who's the great one? Like we must know it's God, right? But okay, I'll refrain from like trying to ask too
No,
many
it's very
questions.
That's very fair. I can also say there was two things I want to touch on. One was like when he was describing the back and forth that he does listen to us, like and we help sometimes with like story stuff, like with the expansion after Haven, very very early in terms of like talking about that. But there are times where there have been moments where when Veen and I are thinking up mechanics that we want to see across the parallels or across the expansion as a whole, we have come to Greg the other way around and been like, hey, what if Cathari does this? Because like they're trying to do this based on like the initial story beat that you gave us for this expansion. And so yeah, it does goes both ways. And that's awesome. And then in terms of like the story and its progression, I think it's safe to say that like post Deception onwards, you will see more of this like slowdown / wider net. For us to tell more stories and explore different cards and things like that, and really get into like the grittiness of it. So because like Greg said, like Aftermath and Planetfall did have a lot of stories, but they were jam packed into one expansion. So you can only tell so much at one time via the cards or via the different story elements and stuff like that. And I'm sure that'll get unpacked later on in our company's progression and stuff. But for on the TCG side, we want to kind of slow this down a little bit, and Greg has made that clear, and we love that idea. Slow this down and let's tell more, and like really help people like understand. Like I mean, we're not like Star Wars or anything at this moment, but like there are like side off beats that people love that like don't have anything to do with the main story of Star Wars. So we want to embody some of that a little bit and do that with Parallel. Like find characters, find beats, places that people love that like no one really it doesn't, you don't need to know it to know what's going on through all of Parallel, but it still makes the universe richer.
Yeah.
Like the details, because I mean, if you look at, you know, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, you know, all of these universes that go into a lot of side quests with massive details. Like
Yeah.
it gives the like lore nerds like something to be proud of. Like,
I love
do
that
you
stuff.
know that? Do you know this side story? You know, like that it's not
Mhm.
necessarily a part of the main thing. And like it just fuels the passion, I think, for you know, the lore and the story. So I like taking the slower approach. I think that's good.
Yeah.
So Greg, I'm curious, like challenges. You said something prior to starting the episode about certain things not translating well, you know, from the lore to cards, and I was wondering if you can expand upon like that challenge.
Yeah, it I equate it to a lot of it even to like the challenges I had like with the comic. You only have one panel, one page, 30 pages to tell the story that you need to tell. So you have to choose your words wisely and figure out what's absolutely necessary to get this across. And same thing goes for the cards. Like we want to make sure that one, it's something when someone's playing the card, it's easily recognizable and people know what it is, what it does, and same thing goes for like prime variants too. We want to have that like recall. Sometimes like I'll have like a storyline like Nehemiah's mycelial uplink, and we got a location, but it didn't tell the full story. So then that's when we're like, hey, like we think we could do a little bit more here. Let's try to figure out how we can include this into our production pipeline of like getting a little bit more for people to kind of like learn as they go. Because like the flavor says some stuff, but not everybody's going to read it. It's only one or two lines. It doesn't fully explain everything. So it's funny. One of the notes I saw online, and I do enjoy the notes, was it was when part 2 of The Hunted came out. It was like, oh, this is great. I love this introduction for this character. Da, da, da. But where is this for the Paragons? And I was just like, great note, heard. Personally, I believe they deserve to be on a bigger stage than just the battle pass. But it is something that I will say again. I heard, and there are plans to get more information out about these characters and stuff like that. So like that's just like you're talking about challenges. It's just finding the right place to tell these stories too. Like comic, it was very obvious when I came in that it needed to be something that catered to a new audience and the community. So the community could like find things and pick it apart and be like, oh, I know this, I know this, I know this is from this card. This is from this piece of lore that someone tweeted, or so on and so forth. But at the same time, the comic needs to serve a purpose for growth too. So it needs to reach someone who doesn't know anything and it makes sense to them. So like that's another challenge. Like I'll sit here and write stuff for Quick Play Q for Nicole, and like these are the earthen, blah, 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 blah. And I'll write this really nice thing. And then she'll come back. She's like my #1 editor, by the way, if people don't know. You want to know like how much Nicole does? She edits
Love
for me as
Nicole.
well. But yeah, Nicole's the best. So yeah, it's just finding the right stories. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But she would say like, like, yeah, this is great. I understand it. You understand it. She's like, but Joe Schmo, who just installs this for the first time, they're gonna understand it, but they're gonna have more questions.
Right.
And I was like, okay, got it. Let me go back and adjust. So catering to both audiences is a challenge, and then also finding like the right way, the right medium, the right place to tell these stories.
Real quick, you said writing stuff for Quick Play. Is that
Did I misquote that? Did I?
No, you
well?
didn't.
I'm curious. Is lore, because my next question was going to be like,
Yes.
where else
Yes.
is lore going to get dropped beyond the battle pass and the comics and obviously the flavor text on the cards, but like where are the other sources where we're going to be able to get this? And so is Quick Play going to get some drops?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It's there's like the way it's been described to me, and I don't want to drop too much. It's early, and then there's going to be like a progression probably.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And then what about Colony and Sanctuary? Like that could probably be a whole section. I don't know. Actually, let's start with Colony real quick. I know you briefly touched on Sanctuary, but Colony obviously is going to be a lot of us making our own stories with the agents, but how much of the canon is going to get dropped throughout the Colony gameplay?
Yeah, there's been a lot of, so like with AI, like it's gonna take liberties on some of the things. Like it's funny, I've gotten DMs from people who have played tests and they're like, is this accurate? And I'm like, yeah, that's good. Ooh, no, that I'm like, that's the AI just kind of doing the thing, which is fine, and like that's fun. So there is, I will say, like John Cooper, he anything he does within the Colony realm, he sends my way. I give it a read. There is like a baseline lore that it pulls from, and it understands. Is there efforts to expand more? Definitely. I had discussions in Vegas with multiple team members of like getting more things that are currently happening in the world. And it's funny, like the one of the main reasons we wanted to slow everything down with the TCG is that we have Colony and Sanctuary, and they kind of take place during this like Cold War period. And I was like, well, the TCG should go this route too. Like it'll give us more time to live in this time. So Colony takes place where this armistice was signed, in this like Cold War setting, and mining rights and are in a very specific area away from what just happened in Aftermath is set up. And there's going to be things like that agents or NPCs will drop that, like, oh, did you hear about the Earthen? They lost Crimea, or like that's just a very bad example, but stuff like that. We want to have like more dynamic conversations like that. So yeah, I've been speaking with members of the Colony team to just ensure like, hey, like if you want to get even more immersive, like these are specific events that happened in Aftermath. These are specific things that are going to be happening in Deception. So if you want, we could literally these in however way you guys want.
Yeah, so it is the same time period, like where it's
Yeah.
not like going back into a Cold War, like
No.
it's consistent.
No.
Okay.
So yeah, the way it progresses is so like you have base set, and then that's where I tie the priming comic to. It truly is. I've spoken about this before. Like we called it the priming, and then we all kind of laughed because it literally is a primer for like the parallel universe. It introduces you to key characters. It sets up like why they're all coming back. It gives you just enough. And then we had Planetfall, which is like the initial skirmishes, the initial conflict, everything like that. And then from there we ran into Aftermath, which was the climax of like major battles that were happening around the parallel universe and the effects of the results, essentially. And then moving into Deception is where we hit that Cold War period. So that's where Colony exists, Roland Fells with Sanctuary, and so on.
Cool. Got it. Well, yeah, and then now let's talk Sanctuary a little bit, because a lot of us at the World Championship in Vegas got like a really cool presentation about, its kind of kickoff with the storyline. And so I don't know how much you can kind of publicly speak about it, but I'm trying to extract what I can for the folks at home. So tell us what you can.
I mean, I can basically say what I said at Worlds. Like, there was an opportunity. Astro was kind enough to just be like, "Hey, Greg, like, what do you think?" And because like with these games come like handlers and stuff like that, and I was like, "Yo, like, we have some people that exist already within our universe that we can kind of like pull into the fold here, and through them we can tell a little bit more." Mainly Desmond Walker specifically. That's another one. In Aftermath, there was so much going on. That story didn't get its chance to shine necessarily. So basically, Desmond Walker was broken out of the Alvaro Brig on behalf of the Three Coins. The Three Coins hired the team lead, the hacker, and the muscle to break him out. They broke him out. He is now with the Three Coins, and you'll find out more how that goes. The hacker, the team lead, and the muscle. I wish I could tell more stories of them. Yeah.
Wait, are they working together, or was it like individual, like one sent after another?
They work together. Yeah,
okay.
They work together. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's thinking, the influence of like story. Yeah.
Yeah. That just sends a whole thought tree down of like, I was gonna ask, what character would make a good, like, the best spin-off story, but like those three as like as a spin-off of just like how they work together, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, each faction I have like, this would be a great spin-off story. Oh, this would be a great spin-off story. Something from that's gonna happen and like in issue 6 of the comic is going to spur possibly a spin-off story for one character specifically. So like Earthen, there's stuff that's in Planetfall that kind of got left behind, like Convergence. Like, what is that? What does it mean? How did that all come about? That's another story I would love to dive into. Earthen, the Valiants, the Mufsar Valiants, that were heavily involved in the war around Crimea, aiding in that effort. Another story I'd like to touch on. Kata, I love Kata. She's a great character, and issue 4 of the comic, the Augencore. She has a path as just a scavenger, more or less, and then she gets put onto this team because of her ability to operate and see things that others don't see. So she's another one that I would love to explore. Special shout out. There's a new one coming out. New character we touched on in Aftermath. I believe Synthar Vox. He's more or less Iraq's version of John, and he's just like the evil side of Augencore engineering, and augmenting and doing crazy things outside the guidelines of what's proper, very unethical types of things. So yeah, we have another new character for that side as well. We got some very cool things that all deserve, like, each of these characters have very specific backstories that influence the way that they are now and the way that you're going to see them. So it's like I said, I heard the notes. Everything is we just have to find the right way to present it to everybody. Just because like not everything should be 1,000 words just posted in a blog. It deserves a little bit more than that. Like I could say very briefly, like the cinematic that we're currently working on, like we felt somebody deserve some time to shine, and they're gonna get it.
And when will we see that cinematic?
Oh, I can't give a date. I can't give a date. Can't give a date. But everyone is very hard at work. Very, very, very hard at work.
I will be patiently waiting. Um, wow. I mean, it sounds like there's just so much. Like I have like a million.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I want to ask about this and that, and
Yeah.
it like that is comforting to know that there's just so much like source material, and eventually it's gonna get brought to life. I
Yeah.
really love that you touched on there are some characters that are like go rogue. They're like evil within the faction. It's not just like
Mhm.
they're like the factions are like one dimensional. And that kind of made me think of Ceres. So that was the last battle pass card, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
Ceres is like kind of evil. Like I think that's
She
sort of
bad. She
she
bad.
bad. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
She's
yeah. Aftermath, we had this card called
pretty
like
bad.
Dark Repose, and it literally is a shroud like going around the battlefield and like seeing wounded soldiers and just being like, meh. Like adios.
Chaos.
Uh,
Wow.
yeah. So when we needed a character for Shroud, I was like, yo, what if we develop a character based on this card? And that's kind of like how Ceres came to be. Like, yeah, she's operating outside the lines of like the Shroud objective to the degree of like for selfish reasons. Like you find out that she is there in part 2 specifically for Tanakh. Part 3 you find out a little bit more. Tanakh is a guy who's in high demand. But yeah, getting back to Ceres, it's not all rainbows and butterflies within the factions.
I wanted to read like a little excerpt, but I don't know if it's like a
Yeah.
spoiler for the okay, well, a little bit. Go read
Just do it.
part 3 before this part of the podcast. But the line is Ceres laughs and murmurs her final breath, nothing truly dies. She drops to the ground, and I love that, you're saying she's evil, but there's still that element of her just saying like nothing truly dies, is some kind of like connectivity and philosophical like, element to her. And so I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool when I read it. So
There's a lot of reasons as to like why she would say something like that. It could be there's a lot of stuff that goes on in that because I don't want to spoil either. There's a lot of stuff. There's something from issue 5 that's like kind of brought back into the fold, and it has a lot of influence. And she drops some other lines that kind of support the nothing truly dies that might get the wheels spinning for other people like within the universe, as well as the reader. So yeah, a lot of these characters are very complex. Uh,
mhm.
or especially like there's also a lot of like we never really got into this like in any of the cards or anything like that. But like one of the main things I'm always like screaming from the rooftops whenever anyone brings up Shroud, and it kind of came up in the Sanctuary conversations at Worlds, abilities, right? And so like you have these abilities like Erasure, for instance, and there were some jokes being made during the Sanctuary presentations like, oh, I'm just gonna run around the field and just like erase everybody. And I'm like, not every Shroud has Erasure. There are gifted Shroud that have these special abilities. So like the Wielder of Corruption, that is Leonid. Like he is the guy to do that. Um, like there's a card in the base set, Fanatical Crewman, I think it is,
Mhm.
Mookah,
Yep.
that touches on this actually. It touches on how not every Shroud has abilities, not every Shroud has that have come out of the other side of the singularity being gifted with anything, but they aspire to be gifted. So that was something I kind of wanted to touch on here with Ceres, is that yes, she has this erasure ability, but it takes a toll.
Yep.
And what does that mean? And what does that mean for somebody like Raven? It just adds another layer to it all.
Yeah. If I can add
More
to that, I mean,
harder
it
stakes.
on the design side, that's why her effect is like an execute. Like you see in the lore that she's not fully erasing these soldiers. She
Mhm.
is like, half like dismantling them and stuff like that. So I again did not make Ceres or was a part of that, but I can clearly see that like, okay, now how do we put that in game? Okay, someone has to be damaged first, and then she's like
Mhm.
erasing them.
Yeah.
She can't do the full thing herself.
That's definitely consistent and diabolical. I absolutely
Yeah.
love it. But yeah, in the story, it says here like another little excerpt. But Ceres is slowing down to erasure for all its finality demands a price. The dread sect has studied well how it drags on the nervous system, how it chips away at the wielder with each strike. I loved that as well. So clearly
Thank you.
there's a price to pay. And I did not realize that about Erasure, or that, it wasn't every shroud that kind of has access to these abilities. And then just, real quick, a shroud seems, because the I was gonna say the sky is the limit, but it goes, the infinite is the limit with shroud. Is it difficult to write for because you can kind of do anything, right?
Oh yeah, it totally is, because at the same time, like it was funny. I think I was talking to Mookah about this. Like, it's just I'm doing part 3, and I'm like, okay, Saris wields Erasure. What's Raven gonna do? She's this elite hunter, but there's only so
Yeah.
much you can do against something like that. So then I had to kind of come up with, okay, like, she's smart. The Dread Sect has been around for whatever. It's a brotherhood. They know they have a perfect ledger for a reason. They would know this information. So then it got into more of that development of like, okay, like, the resources was that. So that's why in part 2 I touched on the phase shift technology, and that's something that kind of birthed from that. And I was like, all right, well, there should be something in the known parallel universe that could partially combat Erasure or be a deterrent for Erasure, and that's kind of like what we came up with. Giving them even playing ground. It kind of goes back to the original thing Oscar said, like with Earthen, like, we need to make them contenders. So same for Raven and Saris. Just need to make it a little bit believable.
Yeah,
So
it's not interesting when something is just so OP and can't be countered, right? You
yeah,
have to
yeah,
but it's also a
yeah,
balance because you still need to believe the threat, but then the threat has to be countered in some way. So I'm sure that tension is
absolutely,
definitely difficult to write for. Uh,
yeah.
okay, I want to get a catch up, like, um leading up to Deception here, to sort of,
Okay.
bring us, like, we're nearing the end of the episode, and you sort of like, give us the breakdown of, like, leading into Deception. What's happened? Tell us.
So we've had Planetfall, which we're currently saying lit the fuse. Aftermath scorched the surface. It was the culmination of a bunch of events happening where ultimately the Earthen lost Crimea. The Cathari took a major hit at the pit, which you could like see like some details in the Eclipse fate card. Um, all this stuff we're going to be touching on through various key art pieces and or specific let's just say information dumps, whether that's on Twitter or the website, with the cards that tie into what specific stories. Um, so moving in post Aftermath is Deception, and it's a Cold War period. It's where everything is like really, really cooled off because there was this treaty that was signed that there's no more fighting in order for them to make these colonies. And we wanted to take a closer look at, okay, if the Cold War if the Cold War cooled everything off, what does that mean for like Ghaffar, who's super pissed off at the events of Crimea? What does that mean for Nehemiah? What does that mean for the Victory and Catherine and all this stuff? So we're putting a magnifying glass on more of like the fallout of those things and how it's directly influenced each one, but from the shadows. So you have Ghaffar doing what he needs to do to prepare for stuff that he knows is coming or is down the pipeline. You have Lemieux, who is still currently utilizing all of his resources, has his high command to figure out what Ghaffar is doing. Let's just say that. Iraq is still in the pit, and he is building, and he is preparing as well. Like he doesn't want to just take out a parallel one by one. He wants to take them all out at once. So he's still building. He's still Vox Tech is coming back. We're gonna have a lot more of that. And the Shroud, they're still very much operating from the shadows, but this one really puts a point on of corruption, and the various means of how that and infiltration could play a role. So yeah, we wanted it to be like kind of have this feel of like a spy novel,
Mm-hmm.
but also like everyone is trying to get a leg up in this. And I mean, one of the main motivators is still Prime, and energy and what it can provide for everybody. And there are other factions who are farther along in that process than others.
Which ones are farther ahead?
I would.
All right, I won't ask.
Uh,
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying to get all I can out of him. No, if you can't answer, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like one would assume one is way farther ahead than the others, and I'll say they're not.
It's what? Say it again.
That. They're not. Like I think
Okay.
everybody in the community would automatically go to one faction specifically being farther ahead, and I can say that they're not.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Yeah.
And then remind me again. You said the treaty was signed. It was who was that between? Is that between everyone or?
All factions, and like there's a big universal element that comes into play with this as far as like different means of manufacturers and stuff like that for equipment. Right now, like the colony is very focused in the tests of just Augencore. So you're going to see a lot of like Augencore influence there, but like it is going to be done for rinse and repeat for each of the factions. But yeah, it's the core factions that have signed this treaty, and that area, which I don't know if we've ever released it, but the area is called Serene Rim. This is where colony like takes place, aside from where all this other stuff is. Because like we're really in the past, like we've only shown like on Earth, like the areas around Crimea, and so, like, the world is very large. There's a lot to offer. There's a lot going on. So the expansions have just focused on this little part. These other portions, like Roland Fells, is a whole other area, and Serene Rim is another where these two take place. So like what's going on in between, and that's what Deception kind of highlights.
Amazing. I think that was a really great, breakdown of getting us to where Deception's going to kick off. So
I appreciate it. I feel like I could have done better, but thank you. I appreciate it.
No. I feel like I've got a kind of a catch up and sort of a full picture of where we're at. Mookah, any
I want to add
thoughts?
on.
Yeah.
That like this excitement of lore, we all know it exists internally too. We're like it's not a vacuum that we think, oh, the community wants lore, like whatever, they'll get it whenever. Like we are trying to actively find ways to communicate that for beyond just the cards and the flavor text and stuff. And I think Deception, while not being exactly 100% of where we want it to be, where we can give out lore, we'll take more shots at sharing the lore before the set drops. So I'm very happy. That was something that I pushed for internally, and other people within the company also pushed for. Now that we have Deception coming soon, can we do more story beats and find ways to share that? And there are a few, shots at bat. And I think it will, as someone that was once on the outside, I think this is stuff that will be exciting and will show like, just a bit more of like, oh man, this is what's actually happening. This is what's going down. Oh my God, I can't believe I missed this. And that's where we want people to sit with Deception. And then going into the set after that, obviously, iteration, it gets better. We'll find more ways to share the lore, find more ways to have more preparation, because a lot of this stuff is proof of concept that we're doing and taking a shot at for Deception. Same way that Shotgun Patch was a proof of concept that like, hey, if this failed, we probably aren't going to do this again. But we felt it was a success. So that means with other sets and, alpha rework, we felt more empowered to do that stuff, can put more effort into those stuff. Same thing with lore. If we try different vehicles and they land well, we can do more of that. It's all taking a shot at bat. Did it fly out the park, or did we go straight into like getting out? Those are things we have to see, but we are taking more shots at bat for Deception, and I'm very happy with seeing the stuff that we are going to be putting out.
Yeah, awesome. There's improvements all around, and like you were saying, it's something that we need to. Not everything's always going to be perfect, and we need to iterate, and we need to see what works, what doesn't work, and Deception is definitely a reflection of that. And I could say, post Deception with Haven, it's everything that we considered that didn't possibly work. We're like, all right, well, let's try this. Like, I could say there's definitely like one thing that worked in Deception where like you'll see on a card an item, and then on another card you'll see that item in action.
Ooh,
and that's something cool. We're like, hey, this works really well for storytelling. Like, let's try to rinse and repeat that in Haven. How can we do that? How can we do it differently? So there's things that we're actively trying to do within the cards, because like we're saying, getting back to the challenges and stuff, like it's just a single panel, like and yes, we are very, very spoiled with PLs. So, and I know, and I can say those have ramped up quite a bit. It's kind of like, hey, if you feel like you want to do a PL, go ahead and do it. If you feel like you go for it. Yeah. So yeah, it's really just about seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and then just keep on marching forward.
Man, a storyline mode, would work so well. Like I know
Don't even get me started, dude. Don't
I
even
know
get me
the
started.
priority
Oh, she
Oh
is
my
said story
god.
mode.
I
Oh
know,
man.
sorry to bring it
Listen,
up.
listen, listen.
Oh, I
No,
feel
no,
like I
no.
just hit
It's
on like
good.
a trigger point there.
No, no, no,
I
no,
know
no.
like
It's not a
draft
Oh,
is the priority.
yeah, it's not a trigger. It's not a trigger point that it's like we're tired of hearing it. It's because we want it so
no.
bad too.
Yeah,
We
okay.
we want it
Yeah.
really bad
Yeah.
too. Yes, draft is the next focus for a new game mode, and we're very excited by it. We think
Yes.
every card game like needs a draft mode.
Yeah,
Every premier product of a card game needs a draft experience, so that's why we are tackling that first. But man, a story point would hit hard. I'm sure Greg would love it. I'm sure we would love it. I'm not sure. I know. And it's something that
Yeah.
hopefully with time we can bring. But like, it's I hate to be the guy who let's sit in reality. The next 3 months are really about making the product work better,
sure.
right? So if we're
Yes.
at that
Yes.
point right now, then we can, new cards, new game modes. That all comes with
Yeah.
time. With someone's gonna say in the comments or be thinking actively right now. When are they gonna do card animations? Right? Like we want all of this stuff. It's going to come, and we are working towards that.
It's only been
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
years. I gotta remind myself sometimes, like Parallel's still very young.
Yeah, and
We want
if you haven't watched the stream that that Fitch, Veen, and Nicole did with Paragon's DAO, it really cements like where the company was and how far it's progressed
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
tech side. Like I didn't think Veen was going to share the story that like when we first got the product and asked we trying to put new cards, and they're like, what do you mean new cards? There's no way to put new cards. Like that's how back we were. And to get from that to here, it is a big achievement. A lot of that goes behind the scenes, and I was a player. Like it's not appreciated to the full extent because like I want to play with new stuff. I want the game to be exciting. I want it to be fun, and we all want that. But like the strides that we've made since then, and I'm really excited for the next 3 months. The strides that we make in terms of like the game stability, the client stability, the connection. If we can hit all the marks there, it really lets us like think of all the engineers that are making that happen now free. We can now start doing cooler stuff, then do cooler stuff. So I'm normally not the guy that says this. I let Veen take it, but I will just add that detail in there that we are moving. I know we want a story mode. Man, I have so many ideas for story mode. They're sitting on like a dock somewhere, and I'm like, don't even talk about this. Like it's like labeled like revisit in 2026 or something. Like let's get this other stuff done. But yes, a lore mode would be very cool.
I was literally just pitching Mookah a whole other thing yesterday. I was like, what do you think about this? And he's like, you serious? I'm like, yeah. I'm just like, well, how do you feel? I can't say anything. But just because like it's all, but like we're very passionate about like we love the TCG, we love what it spawned, and like we have Colony and we have Sanctuary, and we know that there can be more. There's so much to work with within the Parallel universe, and it's super exciting. And we all want to be like I don't know, would people be happy with just an Earthen centric thing, or do you want it to touch all parallels? Like there's multiple different ways we can go, and I mean, and it's at our fingertips. Like it's just we're
It's
always.
so
I'll say this:
close.
I'm always writing.
Yeah.
There's always ideas out there. It's just going to continue to grow.
Yeah. We're in the candy shop too. We're also there. Like it's like for us, like I think we torture ourselves too much because like we're like, oh, what if we did this? And we're like, all right, yeah, let's talk about it next year. It's like, okay, I guess.
Yep.
Just the nature, like Parallel's lore, like starting point again, like infinite is the limit, right? Like when you're in
Yes.
space and there's all these different factions, it's just like you could literally take it so many different places. So, well, I'm always really happy and excited to hear about this stuff. But Greg, is there anything else like related to lore that we didn't touch on in this episode that you want to communicate to the people? Now would be the time because we're about ready to wrap it.
Oh, sad. Well, I guess we're gonna have to do another one of these because I feel like I keep
Oh.
talking forever.
Twist my arm. Let's go.
Yeah, like I'm just like kind of here in my little writer's dungeon, just like with no one to talk to about. No, I'm just kidding. But let's see. Let me see if I can say anything specific. Oh, okay. I got one thing actually. Kane won soon.
Kane 1, say it again.
Soon. We'll see Kane
Soon.
won
Kane
soon.
1 soon. Okay. Woo. All
Yeah,
right.
Kane
More
won
info on
soon.
Kane 1.
Yeah, that's it. We're the set post Haven is in production. We're at the very early parts for the one after that, but we're really trying to get ahead, and we want
Post
people to
Deception
see
is in production, so Haven's in production.
Haven's in production,
Yeah.
and then the
I just want to make it clear. I know what you meant,
Haven, yes,
but like someone's gonna hear that and be like, "Whoa, okay,"
Yeah, and it is the people who are dedicated. Let me just highlight that too. It is the people who are dedicated to TCG working on this stuff. There's no one's being stretched in a million different directions or anything like that. These are now like part of the tasks that I'm aligned with, and it's super fun. And getting to work with Mookah and have these discussions, and then being able to tell you guys like what lore impacts what, like you're gonna find out some stuff coming up very soon as far as deception goes, like, and how it impacted deception and like what's going on moving forward, and it'll trickle into Haven as well.
Awesome. All right. Fun question to end the episode.
Yes.
Dream actor. Like, who would you want to play a character in Parallel, but also who would you want to play? Like, both of you. Give it.
Oh man, me too.
I'm throwing you in as well, Mookah.
I'm gonna voice Aurora Fungi.
Okay.
Just kidding. I think I would like Winston Duke as Orban if we ever get to see Orban on screen.
Okay.
And then I mean, I guess I wouldn't be opposed to playing Tanakh.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it'd be cool. I think that'd be cool.
I don't know, man.
That's a question.
That's such a hard one. It would take too. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, maybe I should have preemptively.
Yeah, we should give us some time for that one. There's so
who would
many
play the muscle? Oh wait, it's got to be.
Who would play the muscle?
Let's see.
We'll get like that CGI of like Arnold in Terminator and make him
sure.
There you go, Mark's
a Batista. Yeah, Batista would be. Batista actually would be fire as the muscle. I like that. That's a good one. Oh man, yeah. I don't know. That's a very tough one. We have I was trying to think. I was trying to pick a Catherine, and I had nothing. I was blanking. I don't know who.
Yeah, Catherine's another.
That's a big one.
I'm a big what's her name? Ilsa Faust from Mission movies.
Hold up. She would be good actually. She's from Dune, the mom in Dune.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Rebecca Ferguson.
She would be great. She would be great.
So cool.
That's a very good one. Yeah.
Okay. We'll end it on that answer because that's a fire.
Yeah.
Wait,
this is why we trust Greg. This is why we trust Greg.
I mean, everybody. Okay, it's no secret. I want to play Neve. I mean, everybody knows that. And then in terms of an actress or an actor, oh gosh, I want someone. Who is in Star Wars that everybody wants to play Snape? What is his name? The like moody actor in the new wave of Star Wars trilogy. What is his name? Adam Driver. Who would he?
Oh, Adam Driver.
Yeah. Who would Adam Driver? For whatever reason, that's coming to mind, but I don't know what character I'd put him as.
Ghost Son.
Ghost Son. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I actually do love Ghost Son as a card, so there you go. Adam Driver's Ghost Son. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, Mark, you have it.
Random. I like this game. This is fun.
This is a fun game. Yeah, okay. Well, open it to the community. Actually, you know what? That's a great engagement comment. Okay, if you made it this way or all the way to the end of the episode and you're watching on YouTube, comment who you think would be a good actor or actress for a parallel character role, please. And then also give us a thumbs up and, all the things. Okay, Greg, this was so fun. I'm definitely like, you got to come back on and give us all,
Yeah.
the tea on future lore. I would love that.
Yeah.
Mookah, thank you as well. It's funny. I feel like I've got like man on the inside now for every episode. It's great. So, thank you everyone that watched this episode. We'll see you in another one sometime soon. Again, likes, comments, promotion of the episode is always really appreciated. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
This was a 983 Media Productions podcast.